Okay, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وصلى اللهم على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم. Alhamdulillah, in the first session we talked about what the meaning of the word hikmah is. And if we take one of the definitions, and I think this is probably the all-encompassing one, which is al-isaba fil umur, is to be very exact, to hit the spot exactly as it should be. And the reason why this is important, and this definition is the definition I like out of all of those that we discussed, is because when we talk about da'wah, calling people to the deen, being correct in the way that you deliver the message is very important. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Udu'u ila sabili rabbika bil hikmah, call to the path of your Lord with wisdom. And most people fail. The reason why Islam is having problems, one of the biggest reasons why the Muslim community is having problems, is because we fail to understand what the meaning of wisdom is when it comes to talking to people. The Muslim community, if it was able to deal with hikmah with our neighbours, with our communities, the people around us, then even the negativity and the bad stuff that's going on in the rest of the world, it would be limited. And the kind of thing you'll get, and I'll give you an example of where one of the, I remember somebody saying, "Oh, I like Islam, but I only like his Islam. I like Islam, but I only like his Islam." What that meant was that the Islam that was presented to this person was done in a way which was appropriate to that person's needs. It was appropriate to that person's needs. And I remember actually giving a talk once where, just up the road in Norway, and there was a particularly anti-Muslim person who came to this talk, and alhamdulillah, he's now come very close to Islam. But the very first exchange that we had, he would interrupt every 2 minutes. And I've got a question. And you know the kind of question. And I've got another question. And I've got another question. And this talk, which was supposed to be about for new Muslims and non-Muslims, was, according to most people, being hijacked. And I just kept be calm and answered every question, answer the next one, answer the next. And then in the end, he just got angry with me. He says, "But you're not a proper Muslim." And what he meant was, you're not my kind of perception of Muslim. And that's why wisdom is so important, because if you get this understanding right, al-isaba fil umur, to get it exactly as it's supposed to be, you deliver the message according to the person's needs. And I'll give you an example. And I'm going to give you a pretty extreme example. There was one of our teachers, his name, anyone speak Swahili? If you speak Swahili, I'll give you what we call him in Swahili, Munyi Baraka, Mr. Baraka, Mr. Blessing. So we used to call him Munyi Baraka. So his real name is Sayyid Umar Abdullah bin Abu Bakr bin Salim, but you probably Munyi Baraka is better, easier. So Munyi Baraka used to live in London. He used to come and he used to go to all of the strangest kind of places when he used to talk to people about the deen, including pubs. And he'd go into a pub, "How is everybody? Everyone well?" And just talk, and then he'd leave. And everyone just used to think he was a bit kind of crazy. And in some ways he had this special kind of quality. And there was one person who was very interested in Islam. After some exchanges of this, he came to see him, and he said, "You know, what I've seen of Islam, what I've heard from you is exactly what I want. There's just one thing I can't give up, is alcohol. I would become Muslim tomorrow if it wasn't for alcohol." What does Munyi Baraka say? "Have you not met Muslims that drink?" He didn't say drinking's halal. He didn't say drinking's haram. He said, "Have you not met Muslims that drink?" And he has these big eyes. "Have you not met Muslims that drink?" And alhamdulillah, he took shahada. And he never drank. Now if he turned around and he says, "Haram! You will burn in Jahannam just for looking at it," which is what some people would say, but he has hikmah. So udu'u ila sabili rabbika bil hikmah. You need hikmah when you're delivering the message. Okay, and that's why the one hikmah that I did mention, we said that this book is a collection of books, and the first one I mentioned was compiled by Abu Madian al-Maghribi, and it was pointed out that he died in Tlemcen, or near Tlemcen in Algeria, in the year, just to prove that I have the notes, in the year 1198 Christian era. Okay, and so for our Algerian brothers, We don't want them to feel left out by pointing out that he's Maghribi, meaning which normally translated as Moroccan. طيب. But that's so he said, عليك باستماع كلام علماء الكون. He says you should listen to the words of the people of the knowledgeable people of this way, meaning our way of the path, the path which encompasses the spirit, encompasses the kind of things that Imam Nusrat was talking about this morning very beautifully, about the essence of who a human being is. Because Islam, when it's all out in the books, it's of no use to anybody. And what it does, may Allah reward Imam Nusrat for his very beautiful explanation and description this morning. What it does, it turns people into a state of complete chaos mentally. Because if it's just there in the books and it's not attaching to their human spirit, it destroys them, not helps them. And Islam came to help, not to destroy. And he very beautifully described how, alhamdulillah, he healed from that destruction, where he became extremely knowledgeable, but with no wisdom. And then once it was touched to his spirit, then it meant something, and that's why he can convey that, because it's from spirit to spirit. And that's why sometimes when you meet the likes of Shaykh Afifuddin, who gave the khutbah, he's spoken to people, and people haven't even understood the language he was speaking. And the reason why it communicates is because people like that speak from their hearts. And if people come with hearts which are pure, they'll receive that knowledge, because that knowledge is the knowledge of the heart. So when we talk about min al-qawm, from the people, we're talking about these people, the people of the heart. He says, عليك باستماع كلام علماء القوم فإن الحق فقط الله تعالى يجعل على ألسنة العلماء كل الزمان ما يليق بأهله. Because each generation has its own scholars of the heart, and they understand other people's hearts, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes the message clear to people on their tongues. That's why the knowledge is passed from tongue to tongue. It's not passed over the internet. Anybody that spends all of their time on the internet ends up in a bad state. They do. That's what the internet messes people's heads up. No matter what you read on the internet, if you just spend all of your time getting from the internet, you will destroy yourselves. You need to get it from the tongues of human beings, from the hearts of human beings. And that's what the hikmah was about. So at least I covered one hikmah from Abu Madian al-Maghribi, and I think I touched on one from Ibn Ata'illah al-Sakandari, which was تنوت أجناس الأعمال لتنوع واردات الأحوال, which is translated as actions are of many types according to the differing spiritual states that may be inspired. Okay. And we talked about what these waridat al-ahwal is, what these states are. And I'll give you some more examples of that. But before I do that, there's one of these definitions of al-warid which links very well to what Imam Nusrat was talking about this morning. He was talking about light, and he was talking at different levels. And my mind was moving from one level to another. I don't know about you, but I was thinking, because he touched on light being knowledge, light being the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Nur is one of Allah's names. Light being the spirit, the Adamic spirit. And all of these words were kind of linking together. And subhanAllah, it was something that I think I wanted to just reflect on. Ibn Ajiba, who wrote a commentary on this, he says, what's meant by al-warid, and we used this word earlier on, and I says al-warid is the thing which comes in from outside, which is importing, isn't it? In modern Arabic you call warid al-import, something which is coming in. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends these waridat to you, and they just happen in your heart. And we say those feelings that we talked about this morning a little bit, about fear, you just feel fear, it just hits you. And anyone that has ever suffered from panic attacks knows exactly what I'm talking about. They're just sitting there and all of a sudden they're hit with panic. They don't know why it happened, it just happened. Or sometimes they just feel love. They just feel this warmth. They see a baby and they think, wow, he's so cute, or she's so cute, or why is he making so much noise? Whatever the case may be. But you get these feelings which are just waridat. But here, the warid that's being mentioned in the text that we're talking about here, actions are many types according to the differing waridat, different, and it's translated here as spiritual states. Ibn Ajiba says, al-warid نور الإله يقذفه الله في قلب من أحب من عباده. That this waridat is a light which is thrown into the heart of whoever Allah wishes. Whoever Allah loves, He throws light into their heart. And somebody was earlier talking about Imam al-Haddad. Imam al-Haddad, in one of his most important and famous books, is a book called Risalat Adab al-Murid, the book of the Murid, the book of the one that's seeking the spiritual path. He says the beginning of the spiritual path is when Allah throws a light into your heart. And what He does as a result of this light going into your heart, the rest of the world seems dark. Everything seems dark. And you no longer have any interest in the world. Because there's something which is greater than the world around you. That which is tangible becomes less important. Because all of a sudden Allah has thrown something into your heart. So here, this is an example of a thought. Now in Arabic, and apologies if I'm speaking quickly because I want to try and cover too much. And if you want me to slow down, just chill, man. Okay. And I'll go back to my normal pace. If I go back to my normal pace, then you know that I won't cover any of these. Okay. طيب. Maybe I can get balance. Okay. خير الأمور أوسطها. طيب. عفوا منكم. Right. So in Arabic we have two words for things that come into your heart. We have khawatir and we have al-waridat. And everybody has these two things. But khawatir, you have khawatir is just thoughts which come. These just happen, they just come into your heart. But sometimes these khawatir, according to Ibn Alam, is one of the great Meccan muhaddithin. Actually, he's Egyptian originally, but he lived most of his life. Actually, he is Meccan. One of the great Meccan muhaddithin. So he's a great scholar of hadith. He wrote a commentary on this, and he said that khawatir come, and khawatir can be dhulmaniyya or nuraniyya. They can be dark thoughts, or they can be light thoughts, thoughts of light. And this again links to what Imam Nusrat was talking about, is that sometimes light just enters into your heart. But at the same time, most of us, we have darkness coming into our heart as well. Because many of us have dark thoughts. And even in English, we use this word, I'm having dark thoughts, or he's having dark thoughts. And sometimes these dark thoughts can overtake you. And that again, I'm sure Imam Nusrat is going to talk a little bit more about how the heart can become encompassed, or the nafs can become encompassed by dark thoughts. But we only use the word, so khawatir is what we use for all normal people. And we talk about dark thoughts, or thoughts of darkness and thoughts of light. But the word warid is only used for thoughts of light. So warid, when we have a waridat, the waridat are only pure. And that's why waridat come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or angelic, but we'll go into some other differences of how the different types of waridat come. So Allah puts these waridat in you, as according to this. You have the waridat, and I'll give you the warid that we just talked about, of zuhud. When you have, warid of loving the qiyam al-layl. Now if somebody talks to you about the beauty of staying up at night, of talking to your Lord at night. And I'll just give you an example of how there was somebody asked last week, they were having some problems. And I said, the thing you need to do is you need to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning when it's completely dark and there's nobody around, and just tell Allah. He knows already, but I think He wants to hear you. I think He wants to hear you. And if you tell Him what you're feeling, I can guarantee that you'll feel better. Right? You don't need to talk to anybody else about what's going on. I can't help you. Don't come to me and expect me to give you an answer, because your problems are not so simple that you take a pill and it's over. Or you do this dua and khalas, you can fly through the air. It doesn't work like that. But I can guarantee to you that if you talk to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's the one that created these issues for you. He created you and He knows the solution. And He will give you the solution, but He wants to hear from you first. Because He wants to hear your voice. He loves you and He wants to hear your voice. And if you really love Him, talk to Him. Alhamdulillah, I just talk like this. And it's not very Sharia compliant, is it? That's not very kind of Sharia based. It's not. The rewards for Qiyam al-Layl, what are they? Anyone give me those hadith about Qiyam al-Layl? There's loads of hadith. You do Qiyam, praying at night, you get loads of rewards, alright? There's loads of hadith about that stuff. But that's not what she needed. This person needed to know what is the essence of talking. And I didn't tell her to pray. I told her to talk. Alhamdulillah, a couple of days later, she said that was the best thing that I could ever have done. Now, normally you'd think, well, actually, when somebody's just getting into the deen, the thing you need to teach them about is praying the 5 daily prayers, not tahajjud. Normally, most normal people talk about the 5 daily prayers. And I do. Sometimes I have moments of normality. And I do talk about Sharia. And I'm not saying Sharia is not important, but this sister needed to talk to her Lord. That's what she needed in her life. And there are many times when I've seen people, and that's all they need. I know there was one lady in Singapore. She'd left Islam. She left Islam. And I know why she left Islam. She had a boyfriend. The boyfriend cheated on her. She'd left Islam to be with him, and now he's left her. She can't go back to the Muslim community. Everybody's rejected her. She's rejected Allah. She thinks Allah doesn't want her back. She's in a mess. And she wants to just end it. No, don't end it. Just tell him first. Talk to him. I didn't talk about the 5 daily prayers. I talked about talking to him. And the best time to talk to him, talk at night. And every time I talk to people about this, what happens is they get a feeling in their hearts. Yes, I want to talk to him. And when they talk to him, when you talk to him, when you talk to your Lord late at night, you get a warid. Something happens in your heart that you can't describe to anybody else. And what does that what happens then? The next night, prayer time. I've got a meeting with my Lord. And it's a different kind of experience. And this is what's meant by tanawwu'at, the different types of actions exist because of the different types of waridaat. Another example of that is, for example, love. Okay. Some of the brothers saying, I've got to find, we just had a wedding. And so Shaykh said, and next time I come, I expect to do another one. And he looks at 2 or 3 brothers. And then one of the brothers come to me and says, you should sort him out. Okay? Love is in the air. And a nice spring. When love goes into your heart, what does this lead to? Depends. According to some of the scholars, it leads to raqs. Or shatah. And if you want to translate that literally, it means dancing. And roaming imagination. Now, I'm not going to translate it literally because there's some spiritual dimension to this which is beyond the literal. What it means is when you fall in love, you want to dance. And that's exactly the example I gave you, was when Sayyidina Ja'far ibn Abi Talib came, one of the companions danced around on one foot. He danced around on one leg in a circle when he saw Sayyidina Ja'far ibn Abi Talib, because he hadn't seen him for so many years. Now, when the Prophet ﷺ asked him, why are you dancing on one leg? Is it because you're happy to see Sayyidina Ja'far, or is it because of the Battle of Khaybar, which we've just won? And he said it's both. So here, his love for Sayyidina Ja'far led him to want to dance. Now, I'm not saying that dancing is what you should be doing when you're in love, but you should imagine that the feeling that you have is that this drive that you want to get up, and you're willing to fly all the way from Glasgow to Albertslund, where's Albertslund? Copenhagen. Okay, you're willing to fly across the world. You're willing to get up and act. You're willing to do things because of love. Now, love, therefore, if you understand this hikmah, the hikmah is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made an action for every single kind of warid. And likewise, every kind of action has a warid. I'm using the word warid because I'm kind of hoping to move away from this word spiritual state. So that's what the first kind of hikmah was. But if it says here hikmah number 9, okay, just to prove that I can do more than one hikmah in one dars, I'm going to do number 10 as well, which isn't even on your list. Okay, so Imam Ibn Ata'illah says, Al-a'mal suran qa'imatan wa arwaha wujud sir al-ikhlas fiha, which roughly means actions are just forms. Praying is just a form. It's just a form, a shape. Qa'imatun, just a shape with this. Actually, suran qa'imatun actually means like a statue, an empty statue. If that's one of the kind of images. It's just an empty statue. It's not alive. There's nothing to it. So if the prayer is just this statue, it has no value. But وَأَرْوَاحُهَا وُجُودْ سِرُّ الْإِخْلَاصُ فِيهَا. But the reality of bringing this thing to life is sincerity in it. Which is why when the warid and waridat, the warid, the thing that comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is brought to life. Because going back to what Imam al-Haddad says, Allah throws this light into your heart. Your job is to protect it, to look after it, to take care of it. So when you get something, a light thrown into your heart, your responsibility is to make it grow, to develop it. And we know what happens. We know what happens with human beings is that marhaba. Okay, so we know, for example, that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala throws this desire, which we just had, zuhud, this warid of zuhud, where you don't want to be part of this dunya anymore. We all feel that once in a while. What we need to do is make it develop. We need to grow, it to grow. And how do you do this? Is what we do, what we call a wird. And that's why the wird and the warid are so closely connected linguistically. What a wird means is the thing that you do on a regular basis. In fact, perhaps what I should do is just talk about what a wird is. A wird is, okay, let's go back to the language. Okay, the word wird is, I thought I'd made notes on this. I'll just have to ask the Shaykh. Sorry. Okay, a wird is a watering place, okay? It's where you take your animal, think in desert Arab terms, you have a camel, okay? Your camel needs to drink every day, or every other day if it's a strong camel, because camels are quite exceptional. They've got really good fuel consumption. You can get from Mecca to Medina without having to fill up. You can do about 450 kilometers even my Ford Focus can't do that. It'll need to fill up after about 300 kilometers. Okay, so the concept is where you take this camel every day. So if you take it every day to the watering hole, you take it there, it drinks, and it does its job. It drinks, but if it doesn't go and get its water, what happens? It dies. Yeah. Okay. Right. Modern terms. Every week, I need to take my Ford Focus to Asda. Anyone know what Asda is? Right. Asda's the cheap shop in the UK, which has the cheapest petrol. Alhamdulillah, I make sure that I pass by Asda at least once a week. Why? Because I need to fill up. And I fill up every Sunday evening. Usually do the shopping and fill up with petrol. This is my weekly wird. Everybody has a need for a wird. And that's my I don't have a camel, I have a Ford Focus. Right, so that's one of the meanings of wird. Any teachers here? School teachers, I mean. Oh, one. I don't know if it's the same in Sweden. Okay. I don't know if it's the same in Sweden, but in the UK, teachers always get sick on the 10th of October. Every single year. The reason why is because we start, depending if it's Scotland or England. In Scotland, we start on the 16th of August, and we're stronger than the English. And the English start on the 1st of September. And by the time it gets to the 10th of October, we've worked for 6 weeks. They've worked for 6 weeks. We've worked for 8 weeks, and we're exhausted. And when we work with little kids, because I'm a primary school teacher, they kind of spit all over you and sneeze all over you, and you kind of fight off the germs because you've got a job to do. And these kids really need you because you've just met them for the first time. And when it gets to October the 10th, you get the first day of holiday, which you spend in bed. And you spend the first week of the holiday sick. And then the week's over, and then you go back to work. This is called a wird. And only teachers will understand that. Any farmers here? Okay, let me give you an example from farming. Okay, no farmers here. Okay, I'll give you one from the Sunnah then. Sayyidina Zubayr ibn Awam, radiallahu anhu. He used to have an allotment of dates. And twice a year, it had a fence around it. And twice a year, the fence was collapsible. So you could pull the fence down. Twice a year, he used to pull the fence down. That there was no fence. So he had an allotment, except for these 2 weeks, these 2 or 3 weeks, every year, twice a year. And the reason why was because if somebody walks through an allotment and they don't know whose dates they are, and people just take from it, they the hukum is slightly different. So in other words, what he was doing was saying everybody can help themselves to my dates, except when the fence is up. And of course he puts the fence up when they're growing. So twice a year, around about July time, when the first batch of dates, because dates, they fruit twice a year. So he has a double wird. Okay? Right, any coffee drinkers here? Right, are you getting the message here? Okay, right, there are certain people that just cannot survive without cappuccino. Okay? Right, so when you have your daily wird of cappuccino, anyone know Nasruddin? All right. Some people need it 3 times, yes. Right, they're the Sufis, the real Sufis. And those people that have 3 in the middle of the night, they are the super Sufis. Okay, so you understand what a wird is? Okay, now you will not get any warid without your wird. Okay? The wird comes because of the warid. The warid will come to you if you're consistent. Now I'm going to jump to what's supposed to be on the second dars, because this is supposed to be the second dars. It says, the arrival of spiritual assistance comes according to one's preparedness. Okay, what this means, ورود الإمداد بحسب الاستمداد. He says that these lights will only come to you according to your preparedness, how prepared you are for this light to come. Now that sister who'd said she'd left Islam, I don't think she had left Islam. I think she was going through a tough time, and you can understand, she got into a relationship, the relationship had ended, she ended up in a mess, she wasn't solid in her deen. She didn't need somebody to teach her, well actually you need to get back to your prayers. And the 5 daily prayers, you have to start with wudu, and this is the hukum of wudu, and you start with washing your face and make sure you cover your eyebrows. And that's not what she needed. She needed to talk to her Lord. So in some ways, she was being prepared for talking to her Lord. So when she got the waridaat, when these lights came to her, perhaps it's better than the Shaykh who taught her that. Because perhaps she talked to her Lord that night in Singapore, and supposedly her teacher was in Glasgow, and he wasn't prepared. He wasn't in the same state. So when he prayed his tahajjud prayer, he may have done it more accurately. He may have had better surahs, better recitation. But he didn't have the same level of preparedness. So here, wurud al-imdad, the spiritual states, the arrival of spiritual assistance is according to one's preparedness. So, what does it mean, preparedness? How prepared should you be? All right, who came the furthest apart from those that came from Malaysia? Are we the furthest in Scotland, or is Norway further? I think we're the furthest, yes? Okay.
South Africa is far.
Oh, South Africa counts us, but he came as a special guest. So, actually, even though you're a special guest, you're also only here for a week, aren't you? And you only get 20 kilos, don't you? Because you don't fly on EasyJet where you don't get anything.
No, we get 35 kilos.
Oh, khalas, he doesn't count. Right, for us, Copenhagen, by the way, for the Danish, is probably the worst airport in Europe. I've decided. And I've been through a lot of airports. And one of the reasons why I dislike Copenhagen the most is because you have very strict union rules about taking luggage handling, which means luggage always takes longer at Copenhagen than anywhere else. The best way to get through Copenhagen airport is just don't take any luggage. And of course, if you fly an EasyJet, you can't anyway. So, if you have a baby, a 6-month-old baby, and you don't have any only have hand luggage, you need to plan. You really, 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 really need to plan. He can only take 2 small toys, so you make sure it's that purple one with the wings. You know what I'm talking about? What am I talking about this rubbish for? It's because this journey that you're taking, you need to think about what you're carrying with you. If you carry a whole load of junk with you, you're not going to enjoy the journey. But if you prepare yourself for the journey, then you will receive things on the journey that you'll be able to take the benefit of the journey. So this travelling that we're doing, this travelling of travelling towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to get this closeness to Him is based on how prepared you are. Now, if you come into your prayer full of rubbish, full of things which pull you down, full of the world, you know the difference and if you can free yourself from that. And the best example is you think about Asr prayer on the 27th night of Ramadan or the 29th night of Ramadan, when you've fasted for a month and you're completely destroyed physically. I mean, if you're fasting in Europe, subhanAllah, you people are lucky. You've got the shortest day this year. You know, we've got 20 hours of fasting to look forward to. You know, I don't know about you, but those people that say, Yuridullah bikum al-yusr, la yuridu bikum al-usr, Allah wants you to have ease, I don't think it's anything to do with physical stuff. Because this ain't easy. I really don't find fasting easy. I find it really, really tough. And I'm not a big eater. It's a tough thing. And when you've gone through it, you feel something. Because what's happened isn't you're not just losing the kilos. You're not just losing the pounds. You're not just losing the weight. What you're doing is you're just losing the attachment to the dunya. The dunya just becomes so insignificant. It becomes so... It doesn't become... There's no value to it as the days go by. And I say the 27th specifically because after that big party that they have on Laylatul Qadr, then everyone thinks about samosa, don't they? And then 28th and 29th are really difficult days of fasting, aren't they? And then it goes to the 30th day. Oh Allah, why did you do this to me? You know, Yuridullah bikum al-yusr. You said you wanted to make it easy for me, and then you give me 30 days and 20 hours a day. Okay, but the reality is that once you can start to get rid of this dunya, and you know, actually, it's not so bad. You know, the dunya is just falling from me. Then you see the waridaat. Then you see things happen. When you go into your night prayer, the reason why the night prayer is different to every other prayer is because the Asr prayer or the Dhuhr prayer, most of us have to pray at work. And I'm honest with you. I'm just going to be honest. I really don't like praying at work. In fact, I hate it. I really do hate praying at work. I got an office and I locked the door and I even put a sign on there, meeting in progress. And I still don't feel comfortable. Even though nobody's ever going to come in, it's locked, no one, but I still don't feel comfortable. I'm thinking about what am I going to do next? I'm thinking about what happened in the morning. I bring a whole load of rubbish to my prayer. And then I complain why I don't get any waridat. Wurud al-imdad bihasb al-istimdad. The wurud will come according to your preparedness. Wa shuruq al-anwar ala safa al-asrar. But the shuruq al-anwar, the dawning of light. That's this translation. Why am I wasting? The dawning of light. Yeah, I was close. The dawning of light. When the dawning of light is according to the purity of the inner secret. And I think Imam Nusrat is going to talk about the secret is the inner core of the heart. There's something even more essential than the heart, which is your secret. And when that's pure, then lights dawn on it. And that doesn't come according to knowledge, in the strict sense of the word. And I can give you, I think I gave this example last year, unless this is deja vu, I don't know. Is that I talked about my mother, and I talked about how the state my mother died in. Is that my mother, she only knew Al-Fatiha and Qul Huwallahu Ahad. My father he was quite knowledgeable. He knew some big surahs and he had some nice tajweed, and he was different. And my grandfather, he was the Qadi. So you know, but my mother is the one I love. Not just because she's my mother, but because there was something special about her. She never managed to learn to read Quran. She learned Qul Huwallahu Ahad from memory. It's not that difficult. And she never actually went beyond that. And when she died, the state that she died, alhamdulillah, she died in the last 10 nights of Ramadan. And just as she was dying, she just wanted to be connected to the Quran. She was in a coma, and she just wanted me to be with her. And I would read Quran until I couldn't read anymore, and I would doze off. And even though she was in a coma, her eyes would move when I stopped reading, as if to say, why have you stopped? You might be tired, but I'm your mother. Carry on. And by the way, you only read one Quran to me today. Huh? You know, you can do better than that. I mean, she didn't say any of that, but just her look. And subhanAllah, she was amazing. She was so connected to the Quran. She came out of her coma just before she died, like a couple of hours before she died. She just came out of her coma, just sat up, and she says, just call them all, I want to talk to them. And she did this in what we call Combes Afrikaans. Real Combes Afrikaans, like really broad, literally kitchen Afrikaans, the language that she spoke as a child. She just called all my brothers and sisters. She looked at my eldest brother, and she just like really started telling him off. And then the next one, she looked at him, and then the next one started telling him. And then I was thinking, I'm the second to last. And so she slowly went through each one of the family. Then she looked at me and she just smiled. And then she turned to my youngest brother and she says, and you're, and she spoke in English, you're supposed to know what happens when somebody dies. When somebody's dying, you're supposed to say to them, Qul la ilaha illallah. Say la ilaha illallah. What you just sitting there for? And he's completely shocked. And I turned to him and I say, Salim, she said, say la ilaha illallah to her. La ilaha illallah to her. So tell her to say. And he says, okay. Say la ilaha illallah. That's better. La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. And she went back into a coma and died. Now, for me, she was more in touch with the Quran than most of the scholars that I've come across. She was prepared for death in a way that is quite amazing. So the shuruq al-anwar, the lights that arise, are not because of your knowledge, but it's about the purity of that intention, that purity of the sir inside you. And that's why when I spoke, when the girl in Singapore that I said had left Islam because of these problems, I didn't speak directly to her. This was through another person. But I knew that if she did what I told her, she will reach something. She will be okay. That's all she needed. She needed to talk to her Lord. And I was absolutely 100% certain that this was going to work. If I started to, when I teach people fiqh, and I teach people aqeedah, which I do occasionally, when I do this kind of stuff, I don't really, honestly, think or worry about whether it's going to work or not. Because my job is just to teach. So I just teach the fiqh, this is how you pray, go away and do it. But with this sister, I was 100% certain that it was going to work. Because it was about the purity of her state. And that I know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would not have abandoned her. And alhamdulillah, that's how it proved to be. Tayyib. So here this concept of wird and warid is important. So we can see that the wird is more, which is more important, the wird or the warid? Wird. Why is the wird more important? Because the wird is what you do and the warid is what you want. Have I just answered the question myself? Yes. Saving time. Okay, the wird is your responsibility. The warid is not. The warid is a gift. And when you go to somebody and you owe them something, that's much more important for you to take care of than whether you ever get gifts from somebody else. So if you come along to this gathering and you haven't paid your fees, has everybody paid? Sister Yasmin, where is she? If you haven't paid Sister Yasmin, is she here? Okay. You owe the fees. If you haven't paid, you better pay up. All right? Because that's your responsibility. Don't expect gifts. It's quite likely that you will be receiving gifts on this. Maybe not physical gifts, but spiritual gifts. But the spiritual gifts are not guaranteed. And when they do come, you should just have your hands out, receive them, and you say, thank you, Allah. That's the adab of getting the warid. And if they don't come, don't worry about it. You didn't deserve them anyway. Otherwise he would have given them to you. Alright? But as for the fees, make sure you pay them. Okay. And the second thing is the wird is important because the waridat will come in this world and in the next world. And they came in the world before. Where was the world before? Where's that baby? Right. Where was he 7 months ago? 12 months ago? 3 years ago? Okay. I know that his father was making dua for him. I know that 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, his grandfather was making dua for him. I know that 100 years ago, his great-grandfather was making dua for him. And so his waridat were already in place. They were already coming. They were already coming. And when his father and mother were talking about getting married, Shaykh Afifuddin had cancelled his trip to Europe. Had a trip, and then his organisation cancelled the trip. No, they're too disorganised in Denmark, with the Danes. They're too disorganised, apparently. So they said, no, until they can get their act together, Shaykh's not coming. So they told the Shaykh, and the Shaykh said, no, but I have to go for a wedding. It's true. The Shaykh said to Nasruddin, I have to go for a wedding. And Nasruddin says, who's getting married? Nobody told me about anybody getting married. So he phoned me up and says, who's getting married? I says, actually, there is going to be a wedding. We were hoping, but I was too shy to ask the Shaykh if he would perform it. But apparently the Shaykh had already decided he's coming to Europe to perform a wedding. Okay? So the Waridaat were already coming before the baby was even born, because the Shaykh had already said, I'm coming for a wedding. Okay? And inshallah, the Waridaat will continue after the babies are grown up, because inshallah he'll be a teacher and the kids will keep, and the people he teaches will. So the Waridaat come and come and come before, now, during and after. Whereas the wird, I'm sorry pal, you only have this small time to do it. You know, how old are you? 28. You know, if you're lucky you'll live to 100. Inshallah ta'ala. Say Ameen. And beyond. Okay, we'll say 110 inshallah. But it's unlikely you're going to live. I'm just being honest with you, okay? I've got a doctor behind me just to confirm. Likelihood of living to 125? No chance, he said. Okay, so you now have less than 75 years to finish. So for the next 75 years, you just concentrate on your wird, okay? Okay? Just concentrate on the wird. And what kind of wird can you do? All kinds of wird, according to your waridat. And that's why there are different types of wird. Going back to the hikam that we had. Right, I'm going to read these next ones, the ones we've missed from the first session 1. طيب. The first one, إنما أورد عليك الوارد لتكون به عليه وارد. He only sent you a spiritual state. He only sent you these warid so that you could come to him. Warid, awrada, means to bring to a place. To bring to a place. Okay, so you bring the camel to the water. So you have this warid. Why do you have this warid? Because Allah wants to awrada. He wants to bring you to him. He wants you to come to him. He wants you to come to him. So he sends you these opportunities. Your responsibility is to look after them. And some people, Allah sends the opportunities and they don't take them. And you'll be surprised at how some of these opportunities come to people. They don't come just like we've imagined lights coming out of the sky. They come in all strange sorts of ways. I don't know if I gave you the example of my Hell's Angel friend. No? Time's up, so I can't say. No, okay, 1 more minute. Right, this guy was a Hell's Angel. Well, it would be Hell's Angel. He had a bike, he had a leather jacket, and he used to hang around with Hell's Angels. But the thing about Hell's Angels is you can't just become a Hell's Angel. You need to be initiated. And you're not initiated until you've been in the pack for long enough. And once you've been in the pack and they can trust you, and they can trust you with your life, then they'll ask you for an initiation. You'll be initiated, and then, khalas, you become one of the pack. So this guy, he's been part of the pack for nearly a year actually. He's doing well with the bike, doing well with everything else. He hasn't killed anybody yet, but he's getting towards what's required of the pack, and they invite him. So the initiation in this particular pack is that you take off your leather jacket, you put it on the floor, and everybody in the pack urinates on it. They all pee on the jacket, and then you promise that you'll never wash it, and you put the jacket back on, and then that proves that you're part of the pack because you've got everybody's pee on your back, and that proves what a good Hell's Angel you are. They don't call them Hell's Angels for nothing, you know. Okay, and this is one of the lighter initiations. This guy, he went there and he's seeing everybody pee on his jacket, and this is what his life has been guided towards. He's been dying to get to this point. That's what his desire has been to be part. He looks at this and he thinks, my mother wouldn't be happy. Seriously. These guys are all peeing on his jacket and he's thinking, my mother wouldn't be happy with this. Khalas, Allah threw him a warid. And this is a strange warid. Allah sends him a warid. My mother wouldn't be happy with this. So he took the jacket home and he didn't wear it. He just took it home. He went to his mother and he said, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I've been such a bad boy. I'm sorry that I went astray, and I'll never disobey you again. I promise that I want to be a good person, and I want to learn all the things that you wanted me to learn. And I'm going to make up for all that time that I've lost, and I'm going to go to Mecca. And I'm going to become an alim. Seriously. He became a warid. The warid came through these guys peeing on his jacket. And I have even stranger stories of that than that, but I'm not going to go into this. So he only sent you the warid. So don't ever underestimate somebody's warid. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends people waridat in some of the strangest of ways. He sent you this warid to deliver you from the control of otherness. What does this mean? أورد عليك الوارد ليتسلمك من يد الأغيار. What he wanted to do, he wanted to save you. He wanted to save you from al-aghyar, from other than him. He wanted you for himself. He doesn't want you to be bothered about work. He doesn't want you to be a hell's angel. I promise you. Allah does not want any of you to be hell's angels. That's why he sent you these waridat, which forced you, pushed you towards coming here. Whatever it was that made you come here, khalas, these were waridat. Alhamdulillah, we have Imam Nusra, Shaykh Muhammad Muslim, Shaykh Afifuddin to help them grow. Inshallah. من يد الأخيار ويحررك من رق الآثار, and to free you from the slavery of otherness. And I don't know, did you read the قصيدة يا طالب الفنا في الله كن عبدا صرفا له تكون عبدا حرا لله. Okay, be a slave. كن عبدا صرفا له, and turning only to him, and you will be free of everything else. That's why he sent you the awrad. So inshallah, you can look through. Hopefully that's covered lesson 1 and part of lesson 2. وصلى اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. You didn't think I could do it, did you? خلاص. جزاكم الله خير وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. I'm only saying that because he knows whenever I teach, I only cover like one portion of what I say I'm going to do.